changing. I see a beautiful day. It's coming my way. It's a beautiful day.
Tyrus McCloud, a man of God, husband, father, former NFL player, and now the founder of Father's Purpose, where he has chosen to change the narrative of how fathers are seen. He believes his Father's Purpose organization will give him a platform and allow him to create solutions for that change. He visits youth treatment centers to work with youth who have committed crimes while under the influence. As a youth born into disadvantaged situations, Tyrus saw a system that took advantage of their weakness, which eventually led him down the road many of these young men are experiencing. Tyrus McCloud's life is now a billboard for beating the odds, and he's going back to show young men they can beat the odds too.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in to A Beautiful Life. I am your host, JQ Lee, and I have none other than Mr. Tyrus McCloud. I tell you, I'm so excited. Welcome, Tyrus.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
So I actually got a chance to interview him a few years back, and so he just continues to just flourish and thrive and just doing some phenomenal things in our community. So you all are going to get a chance to hear from Tyrus. And so as we go on with this conversation, we want to make sure that you are definitely sharing, but because we know that sharing is caring. So this is the home of beautiful broadcasting. This is going to be an amazing conversation. So you want to make sure that you are sharing. So start with those groups and get these conversations going. And so Tyrus, you know, a lot has gone on since the last time you were on A Beautiful Life. And so, with everything as from the global pandemic to just navigating and going through with this new normal, what has it been like for you and your family?
Yeah, it's been a challenge trying to keep up with the processes that's going through our country, our nation, our world right now. And so I got two sons in college, and so they've had to adjust to the whole pandemic of social distancing, the rules and different regulations that they're going through now. So it's been a challenge, but we like nothing else, we press in every day, trying to do the best we can to influence the kingdom. That's our goal.
Awesome. So you and your wife are empty nesters.
Yeah, I guess you want to call it that, but I'm still forking out money here and there, but yeah.
So they're actually on the campus.
Right, they're on campus, right. So I got one up north in New Hampshire and other, in Alabama. So that.
And now are they in sports as well?
Yeah, well, my youngest he plays football for Dartmouth, and so he's a football guy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we will definitely keep them in prayer. And so that's just an awesome thing to hear. And so we're going to jump right into it. One of the things that I loved about, when we interviewed you a few years back is just your transparency. And, I think that, so many people can be blessed. Too oftentimes, people look at the glory and they don't know the story. And, you just have such a triumphant story. And I love the fact that, it didn't stop with you, that you have this great desire to go back. Oftentimes we have this desire to get out of it, to get out of, the situation that we find ourselves in, particularly if we are in a very stressful situation or an environment that we could have gone left, right? And so oftentimes people are saying, what can I do to get out? But not only did you defy the odds, but you went back. Why was that important for you to look over your own life and realize that, I need to go back and reach back?
Yeah, I think it was important because anytime you're born in a situation where it's, teenage pregnancy, drug abuse, runaways, high school dropouts, child abuse, homelessness, child support being paid across. When you grew up in that community and you somehow make it out, not just make it out as an athlete or entertainer, but, as a nurse, as a teacher, working for the city of whatever community you live in, you press through some kind of certification, some kind of high school, some kind of college courses. I think it's important that you go back and reach back in and grab someone else out, because at the end of the day, inside that community that I just described, the norm is to end up on drugs or teenage pregnant or runaway or some kind of dropout. And so that's usually the norm. So we want to go back in and reach and try to pull one out.
And when I think about you saying that, Tyrus, we know that there are a lot of challenges, particularly in our urban areas. And oftentimes we have people that we've been around who may no longer be here or may be incarcerated. What was one of the thriving means for you to say, you know what, that doesn't have to be my story? I'm going to take more of an initiative to rewrite this and defy the odds. What was that defining moment for you?
I think that the defining moment for me was my big brother. I got an older brother who went to prison when I was in ninth grade, and he would call home all the time. And it was one of them calls that he would call me, tell me he loved me, but he always asked me to click over and call his girlfriend, that kind of thing. But he was being realistic with me what prison was like. And he was telling me it was no picnic in there. He was telling me that guys getting sexually abused and drugs and stabbed and all this and that. And so he was telling me and challenging me to do something in my life. But that was my big brother. That was the person that was my father figure. My father didn't raise me. My big brother did. He was 10 years older than me. So for somebody that I lost when he was 21, 22 to go to prison, and I'm a 12, 13-year-old kid, I looked up to my big brother. And so he shared with me those stories behind those walls. That was a defining moment for me. I didn't know what life looked like at 13, but I knew I wasn't going that route.
Right. Wow. And so I love that in the midst of it, because too often times, you said you were 13 at that time when that transpired. And we're finding that our young people are having to make like adult-like decisions in reference to saying, that's not going to happen on my watch, or that's not going to happen to me. Talk a little bit about some of the challenges now, that you're working with young people through Father's Purpose. Talk a little bit about what are they experiencing now as it relates to their challenges.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar in a way. They're born, when I go through the treatment centers and the juvenile justice center, and we go to Florida State Prison, we deal with youth that are 18 to 21. They were born in the same situation. Where the mother was a teenager when she birthed them. It was the fact that, of course, the dad didn't want a baby. It was the fact that he just didn't protect himself, and a child was born. So they just left that child with no purpose, no rhyme or reason in life. And so what we got now is, opposed to when I was a youth, is because of social media, kids seem to be more illiterate than what we were. We didn't have we could go on social media all day. We had to learn how to read and write anything. And so now I got children that we take out, they can't even read a McDonald's sign. They can't even order food because they don't know what the word means, how it's pronounced cheeseburger, because the fact that they just looking at pictures and videos all day from the time they had a cell phone from when they were 5 or 6, because the mother just give it to them just to give it to them. So then they turn to crime and drugs and pregnancy. So it's a challenge to get them to kind of restart their focus and believing that they have God-given talents and gifts. But then how you challenge them to restart when everybody they know in their life quit? And that's been the challenge, because all they know is quit. So that's been the challenge, to try to get them to believe how to finish something. That's the challenge of this generation, finishing.
Listen, Mr. Tyrus, you just woke up just a whole nother conversation, as it relates to, video games and some things that we didn't even think about, like the fact that you said, they're challenged by words because they're so busy looking at graphics and looking at videos. And, I really believe the concept of it takes a village. We know that there are parents that are doing the very best that they can. And so for those who are tuning in tonight, when you think about Tyrus, you and your beautiful wife are raising 2 African-American males who are clearly, doing something with their lives. And, I think about that dynamic of when you have that single parent component, and that parent is doing the very best that they can. And we're looking at a culture where, it's just this instant gratification. And so talk to us a little bit about that journey of how you not only made it out, but how you got involved with being an NFL player.
Well, I was one raised by a single parent. My mother was 6 of us, and so she really didn't have time to sit us down and talk about the X's and O's and birds and the bees. It was more like, I got to put food on the table and put clothes on your back. You got to figure out what life is about. And so that's what I mean by either you're going to get sucked up by the streets or you're going to chase a dream that's bigger than you. And so far as me, I ain't gonna say I was fortunate enough, but I was fortunate enough to have older siblings that made the wrong decisions that I was able to look at and say, nope, not this, but I think I'm gonna go this way. Now, a lot of youth we mentor don't have that option. They're the oldest. They got to wear the burden of being the oldest. So far as me, I saw that option that my brother went to prison. My sister was out in the street. They were doing drugs. I saw how it made them into zombies. And I was like, nope, I think I'm going to go play sports. I didn't like football, never liked football. To tell you the truth, I still don't like football. But the bottom line was football was the way out. Either you fought every day, sold drugs, ran the streets, or you played sports. And I decided to play sports as a way out. Simple fact, because I just didn't feel academically I was able to do it mentally. So I chose sports as an option.
And that's an interesting dynamic, Tyrus, when you really think about it, because a lot of times, when you hear NFL players, particularly those who've made it to the professional level, they often say, they've always dreamt of being a football player. And, that's all they slept, ate, and, focus on as a child. And to hear the dynamic of you talking more of, it was an escape because of all of the traumas and different things that was transpiring in your family, that you saw this as a means to being able to change that dynamic and not going down that same road. And I think, it speaks a lot about your brother as well, that he was truthful, and honest to you about, listen, this is not where you want to be. Like, this is not the place that you want to come to. And so for him to, love you enough to just be honest about the dynamics of incarceration and what that means. And so fast forward, talk to us, our beautiful viewing audience, about what was the decision when you retired from the NFL and making that decision now to become a founder of an organization such as Father's Purpose. How did that come into birth?
That's a whole lot. So, of course, when you get drafted, it's like marriage is like a job. It's like raising a kid. I mean, it's like anything in transition, relationship-wise. You don't think about what life looks like after you get into a relationship because you think it's going to last forever. I didn't realize that playing football, I was going to get a career-ending injury after 4 years and couldn't go back. And long story short, I didn't know what the transition was going to look like. And it was a tough transition because I had to figure out, a new me, put it that way. I had to challenge myself to discover new likes, new goals, even develop new associates. And then, so that was a challenge, trying to figure out who I really am. I'm not just an athlete. And then you ask how it led up to Father's Purpose. I think everybody has something in them that's something that breaks their heart. Whether it be human trafficking, drug abuse, domestic violence, teenage pregnancy, etc. When I looked around, I saw what breaks my heart. It was actually a youth born in that type of situation I just talked about, whether it's dropouts, runaways, drug abuse, and I wanted to go back in and change a child's life. It was all volunteer based. It wasn't even an organization. It was out of my heart at the moment. And that was what triggered me to develop Father's Purpose, was what is it like to go back and find those that are lost, broken, that have been contaminated by, some may call it systematic racism because they set up communities this way. Some may call it the fact that they was just born without an advantage, however you want to look at it. they fell victim to crimes, incarceration, or drugs, and they were put into detention centers or some kind of treatment center, and they got to figure it out. So that's my whole reason behind doing it.
And so you actually started off as a volunteer. And was this a youth that you knew personally, or had you heard of? Was this somebody in your family?
No, it stemmed from prison fellowship. I used to go on prison fellowship, the prisons, to do mentoring for inmates, mainly inmates that were doing life. These are long-term guys that we got together and say, we're gonna try to change the community in this prison culture. No more stabbing, raping, sexual abuse, what have you, manipulation. You guys in here for long-term, try to change the community. What happened was I started doing initiatives with their children on the outside. And when I started with their children on the outside, doing Angel Tree sports camps and doing different initiatives, my heart went towards their children to not follow the same route. So that's where the seeds were planted at that moment.
Oh, that's powerful, Tyrus. Okay, so you actually got a chance to connect with the children, the youth of those who are incarcerated.
Right.
Awesome. And is that incorporated now in Father's Purpose? What is the population that you now service?
Well, we serve the youth population, 13 and up to 24. We say 24 because that's the government says up to 24 is youth. But a majority of our population is 13 to 18. But in the Florida, Miami-Dade Correctional Facility, we have 18 to 24-year-old individuals in that program. So we're between 13 to 24.
And what was the response like when you were working with the youth of the inmates, with their children? What was that response like as far as the community was concerned?
Well, it was one of the things where I saw, I saw me, but I saw a child that was trying to figure out. I saw a lot of children. We had a lot of one-on-one conversations that couldn't process the fact of their parent being in prison. And a lot of our programs were dealt with family reconciliation, trying to teach the parent on the inside of a program how to reconcile with their child. Yeah, I'm not there, but this is how I love you from where I'm at. And when we brought them together a lot of different times, there was a lot of pain and joy and sorrow and all that stuff kind of mixed in together, and just a lot of emotions. But then you also saw the culture that these children, attitude-wise or just their demeanors, were kind of going down the same track as the parents.
Right.
And so that's kind of where it all kind of started at.
You know, that really blesses me, because when you understand that when someone goes to prison or goes to jail, it's so important for us to understand that you're not just going. There's like an imprisonment for those who love you. There's an imprisonment for those who, were out with you and were seeing you every day, and now they cannot. And so the fact that you had that wherewithal to know that, you know what, we've got to reach these children, because if not, it's going to be a repeated behavior. And so talk to us a little bit about what was the reaction of the inmates with you working with their children.
Oh, that was beyond, like, it's hard to put in words, because a lot of the inmates, of course they look at their lives, because again, they started at a disadvantage, right? I mean, they admit, they were born into certain situations, they had to hit the streets to make it happen. But the most joy they ever got was reconciling with their child, being able to be part of a program to tell them, to find the strength to tell their child that I love you and I'm sorry. And the child to be able to smile and hug them. That was the most joyful thing I ever seen in my life. So it did a lot for them, but it also, and like I said, my goal was to create a better community inside the prison, and which that did, because they were able to share with other guys what it meant for them to reconcile with their kids, and also kind of pass that along the whole compound. So it did a lot for just the community itself.
And you know what? I think that people really, sometimes people get so frustrated and challenged by, just the issues that are going on, that they stay on the problems and not the solutions. Mm-hmm. And I think that was such a powerful solution, Tyrus, because it's a domino effect in a positive way, with you being able to connect this inmate with their child, and then that inmate going back into that system with people who are angry and people who, felt like they weren't given, a great start, or just, a opportunity to do something different. That behavior for that individual who is now being connected with their child and having that intervention, their behavior now goes to a place where they can say, you know what, we have to do better. I want to do better because I want to be able to see my child again. And so talk to us a little bit about what were some of the results within the prison system now with you doing this intervention program?
Well, I mean, like you said, disciplinary reports. I mean, the fights, the manipulation, guys can only be a part of this program. They didn't have any disciplinary reports, the issues, the fights, and all that. And so the behavior changed and got better. And then on the outside, what we were doing, what we call Angel Tree Sports Camps, is where we brought the kids in, brought NFL guys in and college athletes. And we just kind of did a big lift them up day and loved on them and kind of just gave them goodies and bells and whistles and all that stuff and inspirational message. So it was kind of a whole kind of family reconciliation type of thing. But for the most part, these guys had to be incident free in order to be a part of a program. So that's what really helped shape them and family and culture and community and all that at the same time.
That's so good. So like the Angel Camp that you do, how often is that? Is that year round?
Well, that was year round, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that was year round, right.
Okay. And so now I know with the pandemic, we've had to make some adjustments, especially those with organizations. What were some things that you have now implemented since being in the pandemic with your organization?
Well, we do with our girls and boys group home. Those are kids that have been removed from their homes due to a crime or been abused and all that. We do our Zoom meetings with those, so we do virtual. But with our treatment centers, we do face-to-face. We go in, but they have a whole COVID guideline, CDC thing where they, mask worn, temperature checks, the whole deal. I am planning for the summertime to do the sports camp in our treatment centers and for our Department of Juvenile Justice Youth as well. So we're working on that now to see what the CDC guidelines are for having a camp in the summertime.
And for so many people, Tyrus, they have a heart to do certain things, but the red tape and just not really having the favor to do so. What has God bless you to be able to have access to do that some groups have not been able to do with the population that you're working with?
Well, he blessed us to be able to go inside these facilities. I mean, with these facilities, they don't let people in because those kids, it's really the safest place to go because they test these kids like every other day, test the staff and the whole deal. They make sure it's a tight-knit thing when it comes to this COVID. But they let Father's Purpose in because it gives the kids an outlet to be able to have an open discussion, transparent about issues and family. So we've been blessed to have support from the treatment centers. We've been blessed to be supported by the Department of Juvenile Justice in Broward County to allow us. I mean, they refer their boys to us all the time. So we just have a great network of people that believe in what we do.
And I tell you, the reason why I want to park there for that, because, your heart for what you saw as some challenges in the community and just your consistency. You started off as a volunteer and now you have an organization. So how long has the organization been in force?
Yeah, so I officially started last year when the pandemic first hit. So it's been over a year now. And so what happened when I was with Prison Fellowship doing that whole volunteer in prison thing for like 12 years. I got with a friend of mine who's actually my vice president of the organization. And we had been mentoring kids all the while before, up to a few years before this pandemic even hit. But during the pandemic, we're sitting at home. We were mentoring kids over the phone. They're calling us every day. It's just things that happen all the time. And so he thought, man, we need to just kind of just start our own and just go. And so that's kind of where it all kind of started out last year after the pandemic hit us.
And so you mentioned a girls' home. And what else?
So it's a girls' group home in West Palm Beach, boys' group home as well. All right. And then it's 3 treatment centers. and then it's called a South Florida Reception Center. That's a prison in Miami, and South Bay Correctional as well. And then we have kids through the Department of Justice at Coconut Creek.
So you all are Tri-County.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So not only are you working with young men, you're working with young girls as well. Now, the parents who are the current caregivers for them, what's their role with your organization?
Well, the parents, because what happened is, and to be honest with you, parents, as far as the parents we have involved, are the ones through the Department of Juvenile Justice. Those kids have been given hours by the judge because they committed some kind of crime. So their support is to make sure the child shows up to our group and mentor meetings to get the hours and interact the way, so they can satisfy their hour requirements.
Okay.
Now, as far as the group homes, these children don't have parents. They've been removed from the homes. And so the state is the parent. I mean, the staff are the parents, and so to speak. So that's the population we interact with.
And how often are you there at those facilities?
Yeah, we do. We do each one. I just talked about all 5 groups once a week.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, right.
And so, as far as the community, because we would definitely want our beautiful listeners to hear what it is those needs are for Father's Purpose and how they can be a help to the efforts that you all are doing. What would you like to share with them about pertaining to that?
Well, I mean, the thing is, we need volunteers. I mean, we can always use volunteers. You can't have enough volunteers. We use a curriculum, and in fact, our curriculum is evidence-based. It goes over anger management, substance abuse, drugs, guns, violence, sex abuse. But nonetheless, if you just have a story, if you just made it through situations, stories of transformation are always powerful. We have Zoom meetings that you can share. We have, if you decide to want to go into our treatment centers, we can take you through our Father's Purpose training, volunteer training, so you can get familiar with our curriculum and our subjects. And so it's at fatherspurpose.org that you can go on and sign up as a volunteer. But I would encourage anyone that has a story, don't feel like, hey, I don't have time to volunteer, but you can share your story. It's just as powerful as anything else. But we're right there at fatherspurpose.org.
And so are you still doing the event with the football players?
With the Angel Tree?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on this summer. I'm working on getting one established this summer. It's Juneteenth, June 19th is the date that I was shooting for. And it's just the reason I did that because it was a great educational point for our youth as well. Because we did more with our Black and brown youth in the Department of Juvenile Justice System.
And so here's the thing that I love. Like, I love the fact that oftentimes when we have to make these adjustments, it really is about thinking out the box and being creative. And so the fact that now you all are doing the Zooms where people can, impart wisdom into the young people, they can share with them, some of the challenges that they've had. Talk to us a little bit about who you have been able to have on the Zoom and be able to expose the youth to.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple ex-teammates. Of course, I always call my teammates first. Dwayne Starks, Super Bowl champion out of the Baltimore Ravens, of course. He was able to share with our youth, his legacy growing up in Overtown, watching people get shot dead in front of his house. His house was a drug house, trap house. It was just, and so I got Mr. King. He does his ministry as well. He was on, radio with K-Love and did a lot with the community and mentoring. But for the most part, Eric Rett, another teammate of mine, shared with the guys. I can go on. He went to South Bay Correctional with us, shared his testimony, how he grew up in Carver Ranches. They don't call it Carver Ranches no more, but West Park.
West Park, yeah.
Yeah. So, but so I just had a bunch of guys that come on and share their story. But I'm looking for more women to share their story because these girls need to hear a powerful woman's story. My struggle has been with getting women volunteers. And so that's what I pray for. But you know, most guys, teammates, friends of mine are like me. I mean, because that's who I surround myself with guys that, hey, we grew up in the struggle, we made it out, and we want to turn around and give back. But that's the group I had shared with our youth.
All right, so beautiful viewers, he is looking for women to impart wisdom to the young ladies, to let them know and let them have a visual, that it can be done. And so talk to us a little bit, Tyrus, about, as you're working with youth and you're beginning to expose them to different things, exposing them to the speakers and just the different events that you're putting on. What has the challenges been like for them as far as this pandemic is concerned? I know that even for adults, have been battling with depression and just, really trying to navigate our new normal. Have you experienced anything or issues with the youth that you're working with?
Yeah, the biggest part when it started the pandemic is that, because we go back to the youth, the population we serve, right? Youth that are born at a disadvantage. And I use that word, you can kind of define it. When they say, there's no school or you have to go to school by Zoom, these kids all checked out. So nobody wanted to go to school. It was like a free pass not to go to school ever again. And so the hard part was getting them to understand the importance of going to school.
Right.
Because the population we serve don't want to go to school. And so that was the biggest challenge. So we had a lot of wins there with it, with being able, so a lot of our subject matter was dealt around developing goal setting, and a lot of dealt with grades in school. And so in all that was that in this pandemic, it created a lot of silence. And silence, when you like to have noise going on all the time, you hate silence. So a lot of them was kicking and screaming because it was just time, the noise shut down. You don't have the free activities and things to do out here and there to go to and from. So you kind of restricted certain spots. And so now you're hearing the message of what we're trying to bring because there's no distractions, if that makes sense what I'm saying. Right. And so a lot of it was trying to keep their attention because they didn't have anything else to kind of go to at the moment. And so keeping their attention and trying to really get them to stay in school, understand the importance of school, because for the average kid that has a goal of graduating high school, that's not a problem for them to log into class. But for a kid that has no GPA, it's going to be a problem to get them to log into class and pay attention and listen. And so that was the biggest struggle that we had. And we made big strides on that.
And I love that. So were you also connected with the school system or this was solely what you were doing as the organization alone?
Yeah, this was just solely as what we were doing as an organization. Okay. Yeah, so all of our kids, whether it be our group homes or in treatment centers or whether it be our DJJ youth, Department of Juvenile Justice, we would check the pinnacles, of course, where their grades are and how their attendance is looking, and so when you see that they're not attending classes and they got all Fs and, so then you kind of start digging into deeper conversations with them. And it's just that, kid gonna give you anything. I just don't want to log into class, that kind of thing. And so that's just kind of what it is. It's what we do in a sense.
And that's why I wanted to park there, Tyrus, because I think that so oftentimes, if adults are experiencing it, how much more are youth experiencing it? And I don't think that we've really taken the time to focus in on what this pandemic has been like for the young people. Yes, we've never lived through it, but guess what? They definitely have never lived through it, and so the pressures and stress that come on them, and I think it's beautiful that you have been sensitive enough to know that, we cannot lose them in this hour. Like, yes, these are some adjustments for everybody, and it does take more focus and attention, to be home and try to log into a computer for 6 and 7 hours, to do work and do it consistently. Talk to us a little bit now about, as you are preparing for your summer events, what is the focus now as far as activity level? Will you still do the Zooms or is everything going to be face-to-face?
Well, we're still going to try to continue the Zooms and also face-to-face inside treatment centers. This thing is that we want to do more activities. Well, because of the guidelines, what does the activities look like? We know we can do sports camps, But last year we had an opportunity to be involved with some STEM camps. We bring in some things
Awesome.
for academic things for the youth. So it's a matter of kind of trying to find that fine line of how far what we can do and what we can't do.
With the
So
guidelines.
the goal is, we have a middle school group that are very academic kids. We'd love to do something academic with those kids as a group. But we just don't know what the guidelines look like yet. But the sports wise, we have that down pat because they've already kind of rolled it out. We can have sports camps. We just got to abide by rules, 6 feet apart, no kids using the same utensils, that kind of thing, that whole deal. But so we still, it's like this whole pandemic is all new, right? So we're still trying to figure out, somebody's going to give us some new guidelines in the next few months, and who knows what may happen.
And so for that youth, Tyrus, who is, he finds himself, in that same system that you talked about, that system that thrives on one's weakness, that system that sets you up for failure if you don't see another view, if you don't see another avenue or path. Talk to that youth who is really struggling right now and sees that as the best way. Talk to them.
That's good. That's good. Well, I would tell the youth, find a dream or a goal that creates a discipline in you. We have to find something that creates discipline in us. Okay, so if you got no discipline, you're just gonna go wherever the wind goes. That's just the bottom line. That discipline, that dream, that goal, it's gonna tell you when to go to sleep. It's gonna tell you when to get up. It's gonna tell you when to make the right moves, when to make the right answers. It's gonna help you discipline yourself to accomplish it. Second thing I tell the youth is, it's the only thing between them and their goals or dream is hard work. We know it as adults. We look back over our life and realize, you know what? If I just would have worked a little harder, if I just would have just committed to it more. The only thing between them and their dream is hard work. What does that look like, though? Hard work. Because the youth that I talked about and the communities that we grew up in, we saw nobody finish nothing. I mean, my father, my brothers, my sisters, my cousins, we watched people quit on everything: family, friends, job, work, everything. So how I'm gonna tell a youth to finish something hard work when all I seen people quit? But that's exactly what it is. You got to find something that's strong enough and big enough that you got to accomplish it first and know what it's like to finish it. Then I was just telling them, just discipline yourself. Everybody know their weakness. Everybody know that they just don't admit it. Everybody know their bad habits. Everybody know that they got things they're afraid of. They know things about friends and family and people that take them off course. You know everything about you that you know why you ain't really moving the way you're supposed to move. But you got to confront those things head on. Be clear and convinced of where you're going. Stay strong in your and challenge your weaknesses. That's what I did. I challenged my weaknesses and my bad habits to eventually my weakness and my bad habits became like my strengths. And so I would just encourage them to just develop that dream that's bigger than them and understand. See, the youth now, we talk about this street code, everything about where my friends and my people's going. If you chasing your heart, if you chasing your dream, it ain't no street code. The street code only exists if you chasing somebody else's dream. And so once you actually learn to put yourself first, then I believe you'll excel.
That's so good. That's really so good, Tyrus. Listen, that's an echo on that. Like, really, when you're talking about street cred and,
right.
Stitches get stitches, and that is a part of a system that is set up for people to fail. Like, when we really understand, like, what I love about your story and why you are definitely on our show again, your heart to say it can be done. Like, not being defined by all of the things that's happening around you that people will deem as not being fair, or people will deem as, you not having been given that good start. We have an opportunity to define what our end looks like. And we do that through our surrender to God. I thank God for the things that he has used to even get me to this place. Because sometimes you talked about it, you know, it's the challenges and it's the things that you had to go through to persevere that has you now at the place where you are. You know, how does it look if we've never had issues, if we never had challenges? Like, would we really be able to appreciate this place that we've gotten to? And so one of the things that you said in the beginning, when you said find something to finish, I thought that was so powerful. When you talked about, you know, there are so many people around us who did not finish. And one of the things that I love to harp on is don't just celebrate the destination, celebrate the journey. Because when you're getting up every day with purpose, when you're getting up every day and you're saying, you know what, I'm one day closer to this thing happening. I'm one day closer to getting my family out of this situation. I'm one day closer to graduation. You know, it's important for our young people to have something to look forward to. And I think when they can begin to soar in their mindset of what's before them versus everything that's around them, it helps them to have an actionable point now to look at. Talk a little bit about that, as far as why it's so important for young people, particularly, to not just look around them, you know, at who's not doing it, who's not finishing, but finishing the course, that race that's set before them, and really trusting God to get that done in spite of.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, because, you know, it's amazing, because what happened is, like, your vision, like when you're looking around, you kind of judging yourself by everybody else. And that's a lot what's going on with young people now. It's like the way it's like all these girls looking like, you know, on Instagram, right? You know, all the guys trying to dress alike, sound alike, right? Like everybody want to be next Kodak Black, right? So everybody kind of looking around trying to imitate what they see. Right. But it's like you putting the mask on who you're not even finding out who you really are.
Yeah.
And I know it's scary, because I mean, how do you really find out who you really are? Like, what's the system in that, right? And again, that goes back to that alone time. That goes back to find out what's in your heart. That when you do something, you know, when you do something that you feel like you're born to do it, but you're afraid to do it in front of other people. And so a lot of youth are afraid to actually express their talents, because it's just not the cool thing to do. It just don't feel like the right vibe, because it's not the right space and timing for where it's at. So a lot of them miss the boat because they're trying to satisfy friendships. And so a lot of it is like looking around, trying to figure out how to fit in. And I mean, and at the same time too, as a youth, I look at our parents as well. It's like, you know, I always say to the parents, you know, some things you got to realize you just got to let go. You know, I never get the house on the hill, right? I never get the white picket fence, right? I never get the knight in shining armor. I mean, at one point, I got to love on my kid. I got to try to get the best out of my kid. And if I'm still chasing something that's faster than me, I ain't gonna never catch it. And then my kid gonna miss the boat. So I challenge these parents as well to stop chasing something that you ain't gonna catch, because you letting your child just kind of run to the wayside, and instead of giving him the love and nourishment he need or she need in order to get to where they gotta go. I just say that because I see a lot of our kids in the group home who parents are still chasing the streets when their kids suffering in the group home. And the same ones in prison the same way. So it's a combination of both. It's, you know, it's a lot of factors that factor into it. But the bottom line is, if the kid can learn how to look within themselves and find that person that they know is great and that talent they got, where they can draw, read, write, sing, you know, whatever it may be, work on something, grass, mechanic. But how can they find it if they don't have somebody pointing them to it? It's always a challenge as well. So it's a little bit of both.
And let me tell you why I think that's so on point, Tyrus. And this conversation is blessing me, because I think we need to have it more. I think we need to be painfully honest, because there is no way to heal what you don't acknowledge. And I think that as parents and caregivers, that we really have to be very honest. I get it. You know, life can throw us a lot of L's, right? We can have a lot of L's in life. But here's the thing. If you are blessed to have a child who you are caring for, that's a W. You get a chance to help that child get a win, you know, and, when you made mention about, you might not have the house, the knight in shining armor, the white picket fence, as I like to say, the 2.5 and the dog. Like, listen, but who said that was going to be your story? We have to learn how to appreciate what we have right in our midst and make sure that we're pouring into them. And so I think that's a great place for us to close as far as the work that you've done, Tyrus, to now speak to those caregivers, because we know that now we're living in a time where grandparents are having to care. Great grandparents even are having to care for children because either parents are deceased, or parents are incarcerated, or parents are out on the street. Talk to that caregiver, give them an encouraging word as it relates to being able to, help that child get that W in spite of.
Yeah. I kind of use the thing that pushed me every day. There's a psalm written by Abraham, and Abraham talks about we got about 80 to 90 years to live if our strength endures. And at the end of the day, he was saying that we're gonna go through life with all this turmoil, or you can ask God to help you number your days. You can take one or the other. You can catch hell and go through 80, 90 years, or you can ask God to make the best out of your days for however long it is. And for at the end of the day, for these parents and caregivers and people, I know it's tiring, it's frustrating sometimes. You got, lack of resources and education, and the system's coming to get you. You got racism happening and all this other stuff going on. At the end of the day, our job, at least I know my job is, because of the faith I believe in, is to do what I can to help push the kingdom forward. Because I only got about 25 good years of strength left. At the end of the day, let's be realistic. We ain't gonna live 2,000 years. I got about 25 good years of strength left if my strength hold up. At the end of the day, I want to do what I can to help push this kingdom forward, because it's gonna go forward with or without me, no matter what. Yeah. I just want to be a part of it. And that's so being able to pour into my children, pour into the young men and women I deal with, I'm just trying to do my part to push it to where it's going to go with or without me anyway. And so that's what I encourage you to do, is that make your life and your days count for something.
Powerful, powerful. And so I'm going to actually now share with you all Mr. Tyrus's calendar. And I think this is very important. We want all of our beautiful viewers to definitely check out Father's Purpose, fatherspurpose.org. This is their calendar of event. And so for April 10th, they are going to have their first class at Miami-Dade Correctional and South Bay Correctional for the first-time offenders. This is ages 18 to 24, and that's going to happen this summer. So they've been given access. And when I tell you, that's a powerful, powerful blessing that they've been given access to go in and impact those behind the bars. And so also the Father's Purpose Sports Camp for youth in treatment centers and youth development detention programs. That's also going to be this summer. And they're now going to be doing a parent enrichment camp. And so, wow, I love it. I love it, Tyrus. Right. You all have a busy summer. And guess what? It like I tell people all the time, I'm only going to give you a few minutes to talk about the problems and the issues and the challenges, but I'll give you all day to let's talk about solutions. And so, it speaks volumes that, I think you've done some of your greatest work after the NFL, and it's more to come. When you really take that platform and use it, not just to get people to the NFL, but to get them to win at life. I think that's the hugest championship ever. When you get a young person who has lost their hope, who has lost their drive and has lost, their desire to win in life because of everything that's been thrown at them, when they have somebody coming into their lives and you now begin to see their hope again, I know that just must be a beautiful feeling for you all who are working with them. And so I just want to thank you so very much for returning to a beautiful life. It has been just an honor and a blessing to be able to talk with you and everyone who is tuning in, our beautiful viewers, we definitely want you to check out Mr. McCloud, Tyrus McCloud, Father's Purpose organization. They are looking for women to tell the story, to encourage young women. They're looking for those volunteers for their events coming up for this summer. They even have classes, workshops that they have to train the trainer. And so this is really a time for us to get involved and make an impact. And so again, Tyrus, thank you so much for being on tonight. Any closing remarks?
No, it's been a great time. I appreciate the audience and anybody that again, feel free to reach out to me at fatherspurpose.org. We got our email contact information there, our phone number, contact information, and let's just all continue to press in as hard as we can every day.
That is it. Well, you all have heard it from NFLer Tyrus McCloud, the founder of Father's Purpose. And where did that name come from? What was the inspiration behind the name?
Well, my partner, his name is Bertram Gillings. We talked about fatherhood so much. The way he raised his kids, the way I raised my kids, both of our fathers were out of our lives like that. And his wife heard it, and she came up with the name. She said, "You guys talk about it so much that it was planted at her and her thoughts," and so came up with it, and it just kind of just went from there.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
So God, we want to thank everybody again for tuning in. I'm going to turn it over to the end of our show, and this show was actually sponsored by Divine Design Wear. And so thank you all for joining us. Please stay in touch. You can reach us at Facebook, A Beautiful Life Talk Show, also on YouTube. And in reference to everything that we do, for it is truly about Him. We get to live a beautiful life because for God so loved the world that He gave His one and only Son, that whoever believes in Him shall not perish but have eternal life. So accept His beautiful gift today if you have not done so already. And so without further ado, I want to thank you all for tuning in to A Beautiful Life. Again, I am your host, JQ.
I'm living a beautiful life. I'm making a beautiful life. I'm changing, rearranging.